Now, since I showed how opposition to paternalism could be based in a couple of moral theories, I would also like to show how Gooden's paternalism could be based in a moral theory. And I will do that with Kantian moral theory. So even though I initially started off by suggesting that according to Kantian moral theory, traditional paternalism would be unjustified, I think that Gooden could argue, though he does not do so explicitly, I think he could argue that if we analyze Kantian moral theory a little bit more closely and we apply it more carefully to my brand of paternalism, Gooden paternalism, then we will see that in fact Kantian moral theory can support Gooden paternalism, at least in some cases. Okay, so overall, Kantian moral theory says that we should have respect for human dignity. On the face of it, paternalism, even Gooden paternalism, does not respect humans' dignity because, as we said earlier, a drug user seems to freely and autonomously want to choose to use the drug, and even Gooden paternalism would prevent him or her from doing that. However, what I think Gooden would point out is that according to Kantian moral theory, respect for human dignity requires that people have respect for their own dignity as well. Okay? And in short, Gooden would say that drug users, by using harmful and dangerous drugs, are not respecting their own dignity. In fact, they are using themselves as a mere means to gain pleasure, okay, and therefore violating the humanity formulation of the categorical imperative. So that is to say that paternalism, Gooden paternalism, is justified because we are helping people respect their own dignity. In the short term, they don't want to choose to do that. They want to choose to use themselves as a mere means to gain pleasure from a drug. However, in the long term, they are going to end up unhealthy or dead or unable to be rational. Therefore, in truth, what it would mean for that drug user to respect their own dignity would mean to choose not to use drugs. Even though they want to gain pleasure in the short term, they should recognize that in the long term, using drugs is not in their objective interests, right? Their objective interests are to promote their own dignity, their own autonomy, their own rationality. Therefore, I think by more closely analyzing Kantian moral theory and what it means to respect dignity, in particular one's own dignity, we would see that Gooden paternalism is justified, right? This compromising position that says, look, what's objectively in a drug user's interest is their own dignity, their own autonomy and rationality. And there is a part of the drug user that wants to promote their own dignity. They're just suffering from a weakness of will. Therefore, the government will help them overcome this weakness of will. It will help them respect their dignity and not use drugs by prohibiting drugs and the use of drugs. So I think this is interesting. I think, again, that Gooden paternalism could be based in Kantian moral theory and respect for one's own dignity.